Hello and welcome to the Amateur Skeptics podcast, podcast number 31. With me tonight is special guest Kimberly.
Hi, everybody.
You know, I just call you
Kimberly.
Kim. Is it Kim or Kimberly?
It's really either one. Let's go with Kimberly for tonight.
All right. And, of course, always, you know, Mac, who is also Sean.
Hello. I am both. I encompass both.
And then the man with only one name, plus a last name and middle name. Ian.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing all right.
Yeah?
Doing good.
Good.
Came back from visiting with my parents today.
Okay. Well, you made it back, okay, so.
I did.
All right. So I think we've got a lot to pack into this show, I think.
Well, we've had a busy couple weeks.
It seems like it. So, Ian, you want to get us started with the, what is this, the Cryptid Science Society?
Yeah. Okay, the weekend before last, I was at a steampunk convention called Anomalycon at the Tivoli. This was the event itself was actually put on by the Crypto Science Society there. Basically, they are a group of students who study the paranormal and do your basic ghost hunting. So one of the events they had both Saturday and Sunday was a haunted tour of the Tivoli and the surrounding buildings in Aurora campus.
So how was that? So, I mean, basically, I guess, what is their approach?
Oh, well, actually, it was interesting, the tour itself, because at first, you know, I just sat and listened and followed them around to the buildings as she talked about them. And then she mentioned EVPs. And I couldn't help myself. I started laughing, of course. Then she asked if anyone knew what EVPs were. Of course, I raised my hand. And when she pointed at me, okay, what are they? The question that had to come out was, do you want my take on it, or do you want what the paranormal people believe? And automatically, at that point, she knew I was a skeptic. But she was good-natured about it from there on. But they basically, a lot of your standard stuff, you know, like I said, they do EVPs. They have videos and stuff on their website. I haven't had a chance to really do much with their website yet, but we do have a link for it.
And is EVP electronic voice phenomenon? Is that what
yeah.
it
Yes.
is?
That's what our good buddy what is it?
What was his name? Christopher Moon?
Christopher Moon in his Frank's box.
Right.
Yeah. But, like I said, see, we talked a bit after the tour, because I only took it Saturday. Apparently, she did a much better tour on Sunday. I kind of wish I would have done it on Sunday as well then. I was more interested in the history of Aurora campus than anything else. For those who don't know, Aurora campus is an area in downtown Denver that houses...
All right, so I'm sorry about that. So a little technical difficulty. So I think we were talking about EVPs.
Right. Kimberly had asked about what if EVPs were electric force phenomenon. What was the last thing you got? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, basically, we were saying how they were the same thing that Christopher Moon used.
Right, in the Frank's box.
Yeah. And then I started going on about the society itself and what Aurora campus. So I guess I'll start there.
Okay.
For listeners who don't live in Colorado and aren't familiar with Aurora campus, it is located right in Denver, and it is basically a campus shared by several different colleges. And the Tivoli, which was originally a brewery, then became a shopping center, is now the student, whatever it's called. See, I got me forgetting the words. So the various student bodies use the Tivoli for their activities and such. And so the Crypto Science Society knows that area really well. In fact, from what I heard, most of their explorations of the paranormal have been in the buildings there, because they have some of the oldest buildings in Denver on the campus.
So,
and go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, but when they do these investigations, do they find ghosts?
They have EVPs, they have videos, they don't have anything, you know, like all the other ghost hunting stuff, they don't have anything of definitive proof. But, you know, they follow up the stories that everyone has of hearing sounds, seeing images and such. Most of the stories she had, I wish I could remember her name right now. She's the president of the society, I think, who gave the tour. But most stories were basic, you know, the sound of feeling a shadow, something like that. There was only one thing that was almost like an interactive ghost, and that was, I believe, the ghost named Molly. It's a young girl ghost, a little girl, who they believe the ghost to be of, died as, an old woman, died in her old age. But in her youth, her father owned the brewery, and she had free run of the area. And so supposedly when she died, her spirit reverted to her happy time and somehow went back to the Tivoli area to haunt it, is how the story goes.
How commonly reported is this among people who report ghost phenomena? A ghost changes from one age to another.
That I don't know. I don't know enough about all that, but that's the story that she had.
Because I'm thinking that the only reported case of that I ever saw was the end of Titanic. So
I haven't done enough ghost hunting to know, but as I was telling them before we had the technical difficulties, one of the interesting things was on Sunday, I learned that the founder of the Cryptic Society was a friend of mine from Boy Scouts, and Jason Cordova, and apparently he founded it. He's no longer the president because he's graduated, but he's still active with it, but he can't, be part of the governing body of it. And I thought that was rather interesting. We talked a bit. The group itself it's not these diehard freaks that believe, everything's haunted. They do seem to be a bit more science-based. Admittedly, yeah, they do the EVPs and such. But they seemed at least serious enough that they were trying to really determine if there were ghosts or not. I have invited them to check out our podcast and join us if they wanted to, because I felt it would actually make an interesting podcast to have some people who are not quite as diehard skeptics as us come in and, give their take on it all.
Sure.
So we thrive on differing opinions.
Right. So hopefully we'll hear.
That's why we added Eric to the call.
Is he here?
Hey, Eric.
Hello.
I just had to segue you in there somehow.
But so, like I said, hopefully we'll hear from them. The tour, my understanding, was better on Sunday than Saturday because he was more prepared. She
didn't have somebody cramping her style. Ian.
Although it was interesting because every time she'd stop and mention, a form of ghost technology or whatever, she'd look at me. Like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'll be nice.
Isn't it amazing, though, that, we're talking about EVPs, and we met Kimberly when we went to go see the Frank's box?
Right, at the Christmas thing.
Yeah. See the connection? Yeah.
EVPs have brought us together.
Oh. They'll probably tear us apart, too.
So, check out their website, and if you can find the videos and stuff, judge them for yourself. That's one thing we have always promoted. But we do have a link to their website.
All right.
And let's move on.
All right. Well, so now this week, last Wednesday, Kimberly and myself went to see Braco the Gazer. So
we had a pretty good group of about a dozen of us skeptics went, right?
Yeah, I think. Because in fact, I think it was exactly 12 of us. Yeah.
And it was transformative, I understand?
Absolutely. So Kimberly, what did you think? I mean, I was going to kind of walk them through it.
Okay.
And that's why I had my special music that I was going to, play. And I guess I can. It isn't. I wanted to play the recording, but it's not good enough to play this. But you go in there and there's this nice mellow music that stays pretty much at the same rhythm the whole time, and this woman is singing, and it's very, they're really trying to relax you and really make you susceptible to the experience that you're supposed to have when you're seeing Braco.
Brian, do you want me to share my impressions of the music?
Well, let me. I'll play. I'm gonna play. I don't know where I put it now.
While you look for it, if I can just let people know, the way it works is they had it in hour sessions. So basically on the half hour, they filled a conference room, and there were probably a good 500 seats in there. We had people lined up. We apparently attended the last gaze, I guess. I don't want to say show if that's too insulting, but the last one of the evening for that day. And there were people there apparently who bought all-day passes. They kept going from one session to another. So they file us into this room, and we were pretty close to the front. But that room went really far back. It was really packed with a lot of people.
There was probably,
and as Brian was saying, there was the soothing music to get you started, and then
soporific music.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and it just, there it is. So here, I actually, they gave us a free download. So I went and this is the piece that I downloaded. I don't think it's the same piece as they were playing when we walked in, but I'm going to play this. It's just a really nice, actually, it's not because, well, it might be. It's very similar.
Wow.
I would not be able to tell you the difference between them. I don't even know if she did more than one song the whole time.
No, I don't think she did.
Wow.
That was the other thing is that
I just feel so wow. Man.
The woman singing has a pretty soprano voice.
okay, but it's fine.
But-
It's fine for a minute or two, but after 18 minutes, I was irritated. But everybody else around there is like, they're just. They're literally basking in it. Is the only way that I can really describe it. Is they were basking in it. And
You mean tell me they were already high before they got gazed at?
I don't know.
Basically, if Enya and a downtown elevator had a child together, it would sound a lot like that.
Yeah. So it's basically and just the words are real simple, and she just I am opening to your love. I mean that's basically it. They're the words. I mean, whoo, boy, that was a tough one to write. Let's see. So
Yeah, that doesn't have any sexual
Oh, so you see, but
I'm
not.
sure we could make some sexual innuendos.
All right. So anyway,
But-
so we go through that, right? And so they're trying to get you into this nice hypnotic state, right? And then we have the lady come out. Her name is I'm gonna butcher this probably, and it's probably simple. It's Jane Sibbett, Sibbett.
Sounds like Sabretti.
Yeah, Sabretti, and she is an actress, and she played Roz's ex-wife on Friends. And not that I guess that doesn't have anything to do with it. I mean, but she definitely, she's very comfortable in front of a crowd. She has a very soothing voice herself, and she comes out and she starts talking to you. And basically, they're pretexting you for what you're supposed to experience. They're basically telling you what you're going to feel. You're going to feel it, and they use the usual keywords, energy. You're going to feel the energy, and they ask how many people have been here all day.
It sounds a little bit like if you don't feel the energy, you'd feel a little ashamed not to feel the energy.
And that's I think
because
that's
everybody should feel the energy, of course.
Exactly, everybody should feel it, and so there's a little of that going on. So, but they're getting you set up for what you're supposed to, because Braco's energy, And what's funny about it though is that they don't allow people that are under 18 in. You have to be 18 years of age to go in there, and you can't be pregnant past the first trimester.
Wait a minute, Braco can't gaze at it?
That.
Yeah.
Braco cannot gaze at anybody under the age of consent?
Apparently not.
Okay.
I don't think that's quite the way they put it, but yes.
When I first saw the name in there, Braco the Gazer, my first thought was, is that a description of what his police report said, or now I'm going back with that theory again?
You're terrible. So no, but the idea that they're presenting is not necessarily so malice, I guess, but just basically that it's too powerful, and they certainly. So
Braco has the ability to abort children.
Apparently, yes.
Okay.
Apparently, Braco can't abort children. If you're gazed at and you're past and I would think, to me, it would make more sense, and I'm pretty sure I read it right. I don't have it right in front of me. It would make more sense that you had to be past the first trimester. But I'm pretty sure that it said if you're past the first trimester, you couldn't go in there. But I don't know. Whatever, right?
I don't know. It seems to cast his gazing in a much more sinister light at that point.
Well, a lot of this it's all about mystery mongering. They're really building the mystery of Braco, and then they talk to us about how Braco has made and I don't know to who, but he has made a vow not to speak in public.
Okay.
So he doesn't speak in public, and so only very few people are blessed enough to hear Braco's voice. But that night,
if there's any people present, that sounds like that would be public. So really, he couldn't speak with anybody except he was in the room.
Okay, but
she explained how people would come up to him asking, I guess, for life advice and stuff like that, and he would just nod at them, and she wanted people to understand if you met him, and he didn't speak to you, he wasn't being rude, he's got this vow, and like
Okay.
Brian's saying, adding to the mystery. And also, I'm sure, Brian, you're going to hit on the fact that Braco doesn't make any claims that can be disproven.
Oh, yeah.
He's letting other people make claims.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, people have been known to experience this energy.
Right. So the next thing that they do, though, they talk a little bit about people who have had experiences with Braco. And the first one that they told us about is this lady named Jill, and she had the week before been at Braco in Portland. So she not only was she followed Braco out to Denver so that she could see him again, but she had seen him in Portland the week before, and she had spent the day there. And she had been talking to her daughter, asking her daughter if she felt the energy. And, her daughter couldn't talk because she was driving. And so at the end, the last session, she had this profound experience, which I don't know what that was exactly, because that wasn't the story that she was telling. She goes home, and she's in the car with her brother and telling her brother about the experience. And her brother says, well, what time did that happen? And she says, why? She says, well, because at our house something happened. One of his daughter had gone and got a bunch of money out of her savings account and paid back her brother money that she had owed him, and healed their relationship. And everybody's clapping, and the lady's, isn't it amazing that Braco's energy can work like that? And so I'm going, what's the logical fallacy? And I couldn't pin it down at the time, but Mac and I pinned it down. It's post hoc ergo propter hoc.
Propter hoc, yes.
Propter hoc, yes.
I'd like to share a Braco experience. I didn't go with you guys, but you guys went to see Braco, and I drove across town and arrived safely at my parents' house today.
Wow.
And I attribute that to Braco's
gaze. And that's what they tell you to do.
And his positive energy in my life.
Right. So that's exactly what they tell you to do. And the other thing is the law of large numbers. Somebody's going to, with as many people as they're seeing, somebody's going to have an experience that they can share. Now, for me, one person out of the however many people were there, 500 or so, is a very small hit.
500 times how many different shows per day?
Well, exactly. So,
not shows, gazes.
Right. Not shows.
You guys can't see me, but I'm putting up quotation fingers.
Okay. So, yeah. So
no, you're not.
That's the other thing that they're doing is they're the law, just the amount of people that are saying somebody's going to have an experience and they're going to attribute it to Braco, and you're encouraged to do so. It may not happen today, but, it may take some time. Watch it. You got to kind of watch it for, for some time and see if anything happens later. So they're gearing you up to if you have an experience later, to attribute it back to Braco.
Brian, just admit your life has been changed because of this. Give in. Everything good from here on out in your life is because you were gazed at. We know that now.
All right.
And everything good that happens to us because of it. See, it's all interlinked.
Because Brian was gazed at?
Yeah.
Well, they went into the the magic of Braco is you don't even need to hold up pictures of other people to get the power of his gaze to affect them. It apparently can go through your phone. If you have pictures in your wallet, those people will be affected. The claims were pretty amazing, and like you're saying, so far reaching. Anything that happened to anybody within a week or two of you going, it's that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or 6 degrees of Braco.
Okay, so hold on a second. So if you have pictures in your wallet, Braco's gaze can affect those people in your wallet as well.
That's right.
Yes.
You don't, and they didn't want you taking them out in the middle of the gaze because you didn't need to. The gaze is that powerful.
And even if they were on your phone and your phone was off, the gaze would affect the pictures even on your memory card that wasn't powered at the time.
Wow.
That's impressive. I need to check now and find out if, because I'm sure people had $5 bills in their pocket. I need to find out if Lincoln is still assassinated.
And then she goes even further and says, sometimes I even just forget the pictures and they're in my purse. So the pictures now don't even have to be in the room.
Right.
So
You just have to be aware of the presence of the pictures, or maybe possibly just of the existence of pictures in general.
Exactly.
Or I think just the existence of other people in your life, because we're of course all connected by that soul chi energy. And if you know that person, and Braco can go through your head through that spiritual connection and positively affect their lives as well.
Okay, so he doesn't even have to be concentrating on those people to positively affect their lives. So he might help an enemy of yours?
Braco is just sending out energy. He's not focusing on anybody. But then they talk about how but he's a healer who would never make a claim to be a healer. He doesn't so they don't make any claims whatsoever after they tell us all these things about the pictures and all that. But he doesn't make any claims, and we don't really understand how the energy works. And people will come and ask me, how do you know which miracles are Braco's and which ones aren't? And he says, we don't know. We just know that that Braco's energy is doing these things, but we're not going to test it.
Right. She actually said out loud, it's not like we'd want to test this.
Right.
Which was probably the most individual line of shock in the whole.
Yeah, which is what
And probably about the most honest they get throughout the whole thing from the sounds of it.
Right. Yeah. So so they're not making any claims. But the other thing that they did, the other testimonial that they had was the skeptic who got dragged there. And then had something. Then all of a sudden his business takes off, and he becomes very busy. He has to hire somebody to help him, and he goes and finds Jan and says, all of a sudden this morning my business was really busy, and the only thing that I could think of was Braco. It's like
you know what?
What was his business?
Gays?
I don't know.
They didn't say.
Because you guys were gays and are doing this podcast now. This podcast is going to take off, and we're going to have the biggest following we've ever had.
Excellent. So
and that same story about that guy was also the famous cliche of the skeptic who now believes.
Exactly.
Yes,
I thought that was a lot of fun too, because all the skeptic really needed was just the experience, the proof of it. And now, no matter how skeptical you are, and this guy apparently was like the biggest skeptic ever, but now he's a bird. So that was another toy in the mix of all the cliches they were using to play this.
Right. So it's all part of building, they've got all the pieces, right? They've got the confessionals of people, the testimonials, they've got these skeptics conversions, and so they keep building this, right? And they do this all before Braco comes out. That they're building Braco up.
I'm wondering if you had gone to other gazes during the day, if you would have heard the same stories being told over and over again by the same people shilling.
That's a good question.
I don't think they needed to.
Yeah,
I think they had enough true believers in that room that I think keeping it down to just a couple of stories was probably more work than needing to re-shill.
Yeah, I would imagine that's true. Yeah.
But I attribute Eric's presence here tonight to Braco's gaze.
There you go.
So already positive things are working for us.
So the other thing they tell us is that, Braco doesn't speak in public, but tonight we're going to have a special hearing of Braco's voice. So so tonight we're not even going to get gazed at by Braco. We're going to hear a recording of his voice. So it's like, unfortunately the people that were in front of us were younger people, and they were not having the dramatic reactions that I was hoping for. Did you see any good reactions? I mean, really good reactions?
I saw one woman kind of shaking and crying a couple of rows ahead of us. But yeah, it was almost unfortunate to be so close to the front of the room.
Yeah.
While we were very close to the gaze, I would have kind of almost liked to be in the back and got more of that audience appreciation.
Yeah.
Out of the thing.
And unfortunately, I don't have. I'm gonna have to grab as soon as I'll have to talk to Karen Stolz now. She got some really good pictures of all the people in that auditorium, because it was just packed, and they just kept packing them in because Braco doesn't want to turn away anybody. He's not going to turn away your $8. So they just kept packing them in. So finally, after they do all this talking, and they basically told us they've used all the the energy word and this spiritual word, and they've used all that. They've got us geared up. We're ready now for Braco's gaze, because they've done all their pre-work. They come out. Braco gazes, and you can't. I heard some people say that they really thought Braco believed it, because like he was that intense with his stare. But for me, I couldn't tell. I didn't know whether he was genuine or not, and it really didn't matter. I'm not really concerned whether he thinks he's genuine. I'm more concerned with is there any evidence for it. So we get gazed at for 10 minutes. And Kim, what did you think of the case?
It was definitely interesting. So he comes out and he just stands on this little stage in front of the room, and literally the entire thing is a loop of music and him kind of just slowly scanning the room left to right back to left, and everybody standing and just kind of all looking at him. It seems, I mean, obviously for someone who didn't say a word to any of us, certainly not in English. Later he was recorded in Croatian, but I didn't catch most of that or any of it. But I mean, he's got a very kind look about him. He looks nice, for lack of a better word. And he also seems very comfortable. His hands are at his side. He's not fidgety at all. He's just got this very calm gaze throughout the audience. And I think he's kind of the way he does it. I bet everybody in there thought that he was looking right at them at one point or another.
That would make sense.
That's what I was going to say because I told Rich Orman that I was going to gaze back at him, and I did. I gazed back at him hard, and it really does.
So you exchanged energies with him.
Ryan,
I did.
Who blinked first?
Oh, blinking is part of his shtick. I don't know.
Okay.
He does blink pretty irregularly, so he doesn't. It isn't staring. So I mean, so much as just it really is. I guess gazing. He blinks.
Gazing is the right word.
Yeah, gazing really is the right word. But the one thing is that Kim was right because he's got bright lights in his eyes. In that auditorium, he cannot see anybody, but yet you feel like you're being gazed at. You feel like you're locking eyes with him. It really does feel that way.
That's a fairly common stage trick. Actors know how to do that.
Right.
It's one thing to do on stage because you want that audience connection.
Right, make them feel part of the, like they're part of it. Yeah,
Right.
So we did that. She comes out. Then they do Brazo's voice, and he's speaking in Croatian. And the thing about it, I mean, it's more of the mystery, right? Because nobody in there speaks Croatian. I doubt it. And you occasionally will hear words that sound like English, and you'll hear Brazo. So he says his name a couple of times. And that
and Karen kind of doesn't speak Croatian, but speaks a language close enough that she caught some of it. And what she kind of said at dinner afterwards was that he was kind of reassuring people that he was with them, that he was kind of on their side, helping them even afterwards.
Karen's a linguist, isn't she?
She is. Yeah.
So okay. Well, that's interesting.
Brasso himself says that he is not a healer and that it is not him who is helping the people. He sends his love and his warmth to the people, but he feels that something positive is flowing through him while he is gazing that reaches deeply within people and transforms so many.
There you go. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure I have anything more to say on it. I mean, it was interesting, but they don't want to prove it. There's no evidence that it works, and then why would they provide any? They have no incentive to do so because every single person that was there didn't care. Well, not every single person. There was 12 of us that did care. So
there were a lot of true believers in there.
Yeah.
Like you say, a lot of people who, and it really speaks, I think, to that believer mentality. These are people who wanted to be touched. And I, back before you start, I've listened to enough of these to know. But you know what I'm saying? Like, these people are looking for connection. And in a way, it's nice that they have a feeling of that connection. And at the same time, it is just a little bit sad to realize how many people are that lonely, that they're signing up to do this all day long, to be gazed at, to feel that somebody is looking at them. Kind of bizarre.
Yeah. It is quite the experience, though, and my mother would be one that would love this. I mean, she didn't get to go, but it's funny because the day after I told her, well, she doesn't like my take on it, of course. Some of her friends told her that there was a faith healer in town, and she thought it was funny that I knew the faith healer was in town and she didn't.
That's the other thing is I really wonder how people knew about it. I mean, we knew about it because of Meetup and people who are like, hey, let's go check this out since we're skeptics. Let's see what this is all about. So we got that message. I was so wondering where all these other people heard about it from.
Yeah, I don't know.
Again, it just kind of speaks to that. There's a whole subculture that, we don't know about, or I don't anyway.
Well, yeah.
Well, you've got to wonder how much of it is grassroots, and how many of these people are people like the lady that you were talking about who followed him from Oregon.
Right.
So how many of these people are following him like a VW bus full of Grateful Dead fans?
Right. They say when he's in Croatia and he's doing his gazing, that he is seeing about 10,000 people a day at $8 a pop. That's, $80,000.
Wait. When he's in Croatia, he doesn't charge for anything.
Are you sure?
That's what it said.
Oh, it does. Oh, I didn't get that. Okay.
It didn't say. It said that he only charges a small fee to cover the events.
Okay. Well.
And I think it said somewhere in there also that he also did not accept donations. Let me take a look here.
I think he does purport that. I think it's just kind of written in that kind of
He does not accept
way.
donations, and the sessions are always free at his center in Zagreb.
Really? He has a day job. Isn't he an engineer? I haven't read that article yet, but Kim, you read an article about him, right?
Yeah, they had one in a magazine they were giving out at the event, and yeah, it said that he's an engineer, he's married, he's got 2 kids. They kind of try to make him out as just, regular guy who just happens to be blessed and or cursed with this ability, and he's making, he's sharing it with people for the benefit of humanity.
Okay. All right, so let's say that he actually does believe what he's doing, and he really believes what he's doing is for people's benefit. Maybe people see his gaze and they're attributing all these fantastic things that have happened to their lives, but maybe they're feeling a little bit better about themselves. So, on that level, maybe there's not any real harm. But on the other hand, there's the other hand.
Well, okay, here's the thing that always worries me about faith healers. But when I think faith healer, I think Peter Popoff. Pat Robertson and Oral Roberts. And these guys really were, taking a lot of money from people. I don't know how much money Braco might be making from doing these travels. I'm sure that there's some overhead. $8 doesn't really seem like that much compared to what Popoff and some of these other guys did to people. So maybe he's not making money off of it. I mean, he's
on the other hand, maybe he's got a bunch of people who are patrons to him who are keeping him well supplied with everything he needs, too.
Well, and that could be happening as well.
But, you also got to let people do what they want with their stuff. I mean, if they feel that they're getting their money's worth, is he really doing a superior amount of harm? I mean, to your point about faith healers, when people substitute a gaze for a doctor's visit, we've got problems.
Right.
Oh, yes.
But short of that, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm completely condoning the whole thing, because I do think it's a little bit, I'm not even sure exactly what the word is. I can't come right out and condemn it and be like, this is the worst, it needs to stop. But I also don't think it's completely harmless, because it is just indulging in that woo of the universe rather than in, the actual fact-based reality. But I'm not sure I'd throw him down as a worst offender.
No,
I wouldn't either.
No.
He seems like he's relatively benign and harmless. At least from what I read on his website, he doesn't seem like he's taking you for every bit of money you've got.
No, it doesn't.
He seems like he's based upon what I'm seeing here, I think he actually does believe that when he does this, when he gazes at people, that he is actually sending love and positive energy, and that, no worse than praying for people.
Yeah. And that's probably true. I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, I think John of God's a bigger problem, because he's doing a lot of tricks and stuff to make it look like he has a lot of gimmicks and stuff. John of God will do the stuff like they did in Thailand with the chicken parts, and he'll do the this thing where he stuffs this thing in your nose, and he has a lot of gimmicks that go along with it. And I think that he's doing much more harm than a guy who just gets on stage and gazes at you. He's not telling you don't go to the doctor. He's not saying, do this instead. You're just getting gazed at. And so, yeah, so it's just this kind of magical thinking, though, that I think leads to other problems.
I agree there.
Yeah. So Braco is a gateway drug to magical thinking.
Eric, can you chime in on this? I know that you said somebody stole your 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon joke.
Oh, that was about it. I'm just listening and interested. I haven't had any opinions in it yet.
Have you been affected positively by Brian being gazed at?
Probably not.
All right.
All right. So,
California's a bit far for the energy to travel, I guess.
Oh, no. It's very powerful.
Energy I'm pretty sure it's not limited by, I'm sure it can travel at least the speed of light.
You know what, though? If it's energy, it's measurable, because energy and matter are one and the same. Well, and so if there's energy there, we can measure it.
Yeah, and actually that helps us move on to the next thing that me and Brian were at.
Yes. Well, actually, let me throw one more thing in here.
All right.
If it's a gaze, it's got to move at the speed of light, so it would be to you by now, Eric.
All right, let's move on to Victor Stenger.
Yeah, me, Brian, and Jen went and saw him do a presentation for his new book over the weekend. I'm trying to remember the name of the book. It was
Cosmic Creation? Is that the name of it? Because the name of the talk he gave was Cosmic Creation.
No, the name of the book is The Fallacy. Oh, come on, load up.
Oh, the fallacy of fine-tuning. Yeah, so basically he's talking about how the universe is not fine-tuned and how it very much has a random order to it, or no order whatsoever. And
so the logic of trying to say that the universe is created perfectly for humans is about as weak as it gets, because there's a lot of stuff that goes against that. And
I'd look one right off the bat. I'd look at the Arctic as being a good example of how the world is not designed for us.
Well, he's talking about the universe
as a whole.
Yeah.
He's talking about how much.
I'm going to take it down to the Earth.
Yeah, well, there was some stuff there as well, but the size of the universe, all the energy and mass that's out there, it'd be such a waste if all that was just for us, because we don't have access to the majority of it.
Right.
We are a small fraction of what's actually in the universe.
Well, and the other thing that was interesting is that he was very careful about referring to the singularity event that started the universe. He never said Big Bang, did he?
I think he said it, but not from his point of view. He said it was called the Big Bang, or some call it the Big Bang.
And then he explained how it worked. He talked about this singularity, and then he talked about time and how and the effect on time. When this happened and everything, and it was pretty interesting. I think that this is one of the first times he's done this talk, because he's getting ready for the book tour. So it was so I think it's still developing a little bit. It seemed like it was a little short and a little rushed, but I think that as he gets more comfortable with it, that it's going to be pretty good. I can't wait to read the book. He's definitely an interesting guy. He won a Nobel Prize for his work in particle physics, and he's also he's the adjunct professor of philosophy at the University of Colorado. So that's an interesting mix. He's a physicist and a philosopher. And he certainly he has no tolerance for the bogus. What do I want to say? He's very
are you talking about what the myth that annoyed him the most?
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of tolerance for the ignorance of like the people who like The Secret.
Yeah,
right.
He was asked the question, what myth did he like, and he didn't really have a good one for that, but they said, okay, which one annoyed you the most? And he said it was the secret kind of stuff, where if you think about it, you can make it happen kind of deal.
Right.
Right. Well, he does study quantum physics. He's a professor of it. I've read some of his other books. Yeah, the people who are like, oh, it's on a quantum level, clearly just annoy the crap out of him.
Right.
Yes.
No, that's what he was saying. He cannot stand that stuff because they clearly don't understand quantum physics at all.
Right. And them using his expertise as like this explanation for the woo. Yeah, he's not shy about it either.
No, he's not. And
wasn't there a scientist who was talking about adding a new fallacy to the list of logical fallacies called the quantum fallacy?
That's Brian Dunning.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is one of the words that we've got to take back, because it's abused so much by people that want to sell stuff that sounds sciencey.
Crap.
Yeah, that crap.
It's a perfect thing for people who are selling illogical, and things that are not common sense because there's a lot about quantum physics that is very counterintuitive, and it fits into its own little mold, and I'm no quantum physicist by any stretch, but it has that as its basis. There is some counterintuitive stuff here that is science, and they were like, oh, well, if there's science of counterintuitism, I can hit you with all sorts of crap. Here's an armband, they go from there, and that's why they love it so much.
Yeah. He did an interview with somebody from the Center for Inquiry, and where he was talking about this, and he says this comes back from, it went all the way back to the 1960s before they really understood it, that people had this idea that, you could interrupt, or you could manipulate the particle at the quantum level and make these changes. And one of the things he said that I guess I didn't realize is that time at the quantum level can run backwards and forwards, but that doesn't scale up to the macro level because they had asked him about time travel. So basically, you cannot affect a particle from the macro level at the quantum level through thoughts. And that's
right, but there is so many things that people just love to hook on to. That idea that causality is not a one-way street. That lets you make any claim you want, because in quantum physics, apparently, you can't prove that event A caused event B. And also event C can happen for no discernible reason whatsoever. So all those kind of things are just wonderful for people who have absolutely no science to back up their stuff, and it happens just because it happens.
Right.
I mean, they love it. They totally love it. And yeah, he's really good at talking about how they're misinterpreting it.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. So his book will be coming out. Hopefully he'll be doing this some more lectures and stuff in town so that more people can go and see him, because he is definitely worth seeing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that one.
Oh, I just said he's definitely worth seeing.
Next?
Oh yeah, you missed it. All right. So let's move on to the 12-year-old boy who's going to rewrite relativity, the theory of relativity, or expand on it. I don't know. What is he?
Okay. Jason Burnett, who has an IQ of like 170. Although one of my problems is they kept comparing him to Einstein, being like he has a higher IQ than Einstein, and I kept looking at it like, okay, that doesn't mean a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
If you read on, they get into it. He is a mathematical genius. He has a gift. There's no doubt about that. He taught himself math based. He's autistic, but I think he graduated high school he's 12 now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 12.
So he's already in college. So
well, this is one thing that I couldn't get straight. He's in college for math, but is he in college for English and other and
probably
other?
He's graduated high school.
Okay.
There was stuff about that.
Okay.
So. And basically, apparently he even dreams math. He can't sleep at night because all the numbers are going through his head. He has problems like that.
Yeah.
So, he like I said, there's no doubt he's a mathematical. But I got annoyed at first because they kept trying to say, oh, he's smarter than Einstein. And every time I saw them, I'm like, that is meaningless. Give me, more. But they did. So basically, right now let's see if he's basically working on the theory of relativity, but I can't remember if he's rewriting it or the headlines are going to give you a bit more.
He's working on expanding the theory of relativity.
Yeah, and there's a 12-year-old kid doing this, and it's kind of crazy to actually have someone at this level doing this kind of math. I'm good at math, but there's definitely a level I can't get to just because it gets more and more complicated. So, I applaud him. Now, the second article here talks about how he's out to disprove the Big Bang Theory. He doesn't like the Big Bang. He says it disagrees with the knowledge that's out there.
And, here's the interesting thing about what he says about it is he was talking about the cooling process and about how quickly carbon would form. And this is where he says the base of his problem is, I can't believe with how simple it is that this hasn't been looked at before.
It kind of has been, but it's one of those things, how much do we really know? And in some ways it does take someone almost fresh and probably this young to really be able to explore it.
Okay. Yeah,
in fact, at our lecture we were just talking about, we saw some of that. He was busy talking about the various ideas of the Big Bang.
Right, that's true. It isn't a coherent theory. I'll give you that.
Yeah. And so, now the thing is, Christians are, of course, busy plotting. But the truth is...
they shouldn't be applauding it because he'll come up with something smarter.
That's the thing. If he disproves the Big Bang, more than likely, looking at this kid, he's going to have something better, like Mac just said. Something that's going to be even more, wow, that's perfect, that even fits better than what we could have imagined. And that's the way science works. And yet,
exactly.
The Christians are... We have an article we'll talk about in a little bit about the Big Bang versus creationism, and it starts off saying, there's only two possibilities.
Right, that's the problem. Yeah,
and it's like
they have this fallacy that if they can prove the Big Bang theory wrong and evolution the same way, that the only other possibility is creationism. But the problem is you still have to have evidence. So let's say that we decide tomorrow that the Big Bang theory is wrong and we don't know how it happened. That just means we don't know.
And that's the thing. Jacob's idea here, if he comes up with a better model than the Big Bang Theory, hey, everyone's going to be going to it saying, wow, that's incredible. That's a better model. Let's follow it. And no single scientist is going to sit back and say, the horror that the Big Bang Theory was proven wrong.
No, they're going to be excited to find out what this kid's going to do next.
Right.
But
I'm excited.
But certainly there's
and the entire scientific method is all about testing a hypothesis and proving it wrong. It's what we're looking for. And the article with the Christians is just so maddening, that idea that they think that we're terrified that we're going to assert a hypothesis that we've taken of, this is the best evidence, this fits the model, this fits the evidence the best so far. And they think we're all terrified of losing that. And
right.
Meanwhile, we're all like, if you understand scientific method, you're like, that's great. Go ahead. If you can disprove that opens the door to something else. And as you're saying, it certainly doesn't suggest that if that's wrong, then therefore they're right.
So let's move right on to this article.
I've gone ahead and moved up the article.
Let's move on. So this one is from
I wanted to put in two thoughts
Christian
about the Einstein comparison.
Okay.
First of all, this kid has been nurtured from an early age, whereas Einstein pretty much made up everything that he had all these thoughts going through his head, and he never really had the same kind of nurturing that this kid had.
Right.
The second point is that there's a lot of theories that Einstein himself had Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, could Einstein have done this if Einstein had all of what Einstein came up with beforehand? That's the other thing. This kid gets to work off of Einstein.
That was my other thought too. Yeah.
All this has come.
He's got he's got the shoulders of giants to stand upon,
right.
And he will probably be a giant himself, assuming that he doesn't burn out at an early age.
Right.
So
I applaud his intelligence. I'm not putting him down saying, hey, it's wrong to compare him to Einstein. I'm saying, come and show him being original, show what he's actually doing, because that's so much more important than saying he's smarter than Einstein, he has similarities to Einstein, stuff like that. So much more important to say, hey, he's doing something, this is how his mind works, because that's what's really important.
Can I also put in a thing that annoyed me about these articles too, is the harping on the fact that he has Asperger's system and is autistic. They kind of make it sound like, especially with all the anti-vax stuff, they love pointing out anytime there's another instance of autism. And from what I got from the article, because it was really unspecific, and I unfortunately didn't have time to investigate it further, but there was really no talk about how severe condition he had.
It's not very severe.
And in fact, Asperger's
they said
is
it
one
was
of the mild ones.
No, but
very mild.
Did any of you watch the video? I'm sorry, Eric. I stepped on you.
They lead off in the title of the article as autistic boy 12, and then they say, "Oh, it's a minor."
Right.
Well, when they go into there.
Did you watch the video? Did anybody other than me watch the video?
I didn't.
He is. I mean, if he may have Asperger's, and it may have delayed some of his language skills and stuff like that. But the way that he talks is very clear. When he's going through the equations and everything, he shows certainly a mastery of the equations. He never really talks about what the equations mean, but he just kind of goes through the equations and the different pieces of them. And he's a very high functioning autistic. So and it's a spectrum disorder. He's very low on the spectrum as far as severity.
Exactly.
Right.
And I just wanted to point that out because, he sounds to me from what they were saying here, I'm betting 15 years ago he wouldn't have been diagnosed. And it goes back to, it's a bigger conversation about the anti-vax stuff because they've changed what is diagnosed and what isn't, makes it sound like there's this explosion. And this just seemed to me another example of somebody who, I bet you, given what little we know about here, because he is so high functioning, that they would have just said, well, he's just really smart. He's into his own thing. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just not all that, the autism thing is such a buzzword these days, and I just think it's so overused.
And in some ways,
it's eccentric.
It's kind of a red herring too, because they want to. When you think autistic, you do not think immediately of a boy like this, of a boy genius. You think of somebody who's severely handicapped.
Yeah,
right.
they want to throw the thought out there that he's brilliant, but there's something with him.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with this kid.
The boy ain't right.
And I bet that he doesn't even have a lot of social problems like some autistics do. He's clearly interacting with people older than him in situations where he's teaching them math. he's assisting the other people in his college courses, and he doesn't have, a lot of Asperger's people, they don't like crowds, they don't want to be around people. He doesn't seem to have quite those issues. Maybe he does. They didn't come up in the
another
article.
thing with Asperger's is a lot of times Asperger's people tend to get really frustrated trying to explain what they know, and apparently he doesn't have any difficulty teaching others.
So
which means he's got good communication skills.
So I don't know for sure, but it seems like that Kim is right that he might not have been even a diagnosis autistic years ago before they kind of broadened the diagnosis.
And in fact, there is no such thing as Asperger's, as we've discussed before. Not anymore.
Right, it's autism. Right.
Yep, autism spectrum disorders.
Yeah. So anyway, the kid is brilliant. There's no doubt about that. He may have some handicaps that I didn't see in the video. And clearly he developed late, but it hasn't affected him. He's been able to really shine, and so he's a brilliant kid, and that's and that's great. So
then the follow up to this is what I was talking about. It is entitled "The Big Bang Theory versus God's Word," and it's ChristianCourier.com. I love the follow-up, the place for reasonable faith. Now, the article, after dogging on John Clayton, who apparently believes in God but also believes in evolution and the Big Bang, says straight up, basically there are two views of the origin of the universe. One of these is the supernatural position set forth in the book of Genesis with ample confirmation from other inspired writings.
Which writings?
What?
I want to know what the ample confirmative writings are.
It doesn't say. It just only makes references back to the book of Genesis.
And the fact that they're saying inspired writings indicates that they believe very clearly that these writings were in fact divinely inspired.
Right.
Circular references.
Then the next paragraph starts off, the second view of the beginning of the universe is wholly materialistic.
That's a bad word.
Yeah, apparently the fact that we are actually part of the universe, that we're made from the same stuff as stars and stuff like that, is materialistic somehow. I've never quite figured that out, but so the article itself is obviously way centered, and it dogs on the science of the Big Bang. Gets into some of the flaws in it, which once more we have Jacob there seeing flaws himself, as do many other scientists.
And here they always make the same assumption, though, that because that there's a few flaws, the whole thing is wrong.
Right.
And
then,
which is a logical fallacy as well.
Sure.
Then they get into the cosmic egg, which is what they're calling the singularity that started the Big Bang. And, of course, the same old question, where did it come from? How could it always have existed?
Was it poached or was it scrambled?
Somehow they can have the God that has always been, but they can't have a universe that has always been. Or they can't, that's always bothered me, is the fact that their beginning has no beginning or end. Our beginning has to have a beginning. It can't have always existed. And once more, the talk me and Brian went to I can't remember his name.
Victor Stenger.
Stenger talked about how actually there are ways that the universe can have no beginning or end, and explain that in his writings. So,
and here's this is an uncomfortability for them. For me, it's okay not to know, right? We're investigating. The thing that we do know is that everything seems to have come from a central location, and that the energy the universe is expanding, and it's speeding up. It's not slowing down. So we know. So it looks like it's being pushed by something. Those are the things that we do know, right? So we have to explain those somehow, and the Big Bang is an attempt to do that. Creationism is not. It doesn't explain any of those
and of course,
things.
Creationism is merely an attempt to say there's some big brother out there watching out for us.
Yeah. And of course, throughout the whole article, all it does is rip apart the Big Bang Theory. It doesn't at any point find any true defense outside of the Bible in creationism, which is always one of the great flaws in this argument they have. It's like it's fine to say, hey, I found flaws in yours, but then you have to go back and come up with stuff to back up your own as being a better choice. And at no point do they do that. At no point do they actually present anything that shows you better evidence that the Bible and creationism are true. So.
Yeah.
And was this a brand new article, Ian, that you found? Because it seemed to reference a whole lot of really old stuff.
Probably not. It was actually, I found it through the articles on Jacob there.
They
one of them
don't.
had a link to it.
They don't date it.
Most recent reference, listed references is 2003.
Yeah.
So there you go. So it's old anyway. But that's okay. I mean, it does kind of exemplify the point that they want to make that there was no Big Bang and evolution is false.
Right.
How do you feel about that, Eric? Evolution is false.
Those two don't have anything to do with each other. Other than that, a lot of time is involved.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, excellent point. All right, so we are at an hour. So is there anything else? I wanted to hit Bigfoot real quick.
Okay, and I want doggone Newt.
Okay, go ahead. Let's doggone Newt.
Okay.
I don't know how many people have heard of this one, but in a recent speech to a Christian congregation, Newt Gingrich
I think it's pronounced Gingrich.
was showing that he doesn't quite understand certain things. Either that or he really was playing some weird game that he, for some reason, thought no one would mock him for. But in the speech, he says, I have 2 grandchildren. Maggie is 11, Robert is 9. I am convinced that if we do not decisively win the struggle over the nature of America, by the time they are my age, they will be in a secular atheist country, potentially one dominated by radical Muslims, and with no understanding of what it once meant to be an American.
So I think we should ask. Yeah, we should ask the devout atheist about this.
You sure you want to start me on a political discussion?
No, yeah, go ahead. Of course I do.
Doors open.
I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous. I love the idea that by the time his grandkids are older, that we're living in a secular nation. I would certainly welcome that. I am surprised that he thinks the secular nation is going to be run by the Muslims, however, since that doesn't seem to
Well,
fit
what it
together at
sounds like
all.
to me was he was basically just, he was giving the speech to Christians, and he figured, okay, if I want them to follow me, I have to pick on their 2 main enemies and somehow link them, even though there's no logic or rationale that does.
Well, it's a complete non sequitur.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no way to connect. They're not compatible in the way that he wants them to be a bunch of atheists that are ruled by Muslims.
It really does show how it's just a collection of buzzwords.
It is,
It doesn't make a damn bit of sense. But it does, but it riles up that base. Muslim atheists have got to, I mean, and that really has to be turned into a t-shirt of some kind of being a devout Muslim atheist somehow. But it's just so ridiculous, but it scares the crap out of them. Those are the worst things in the world. If you put them together, you have like the Reese's peanut butter cup of death.
I can make sense of it.
I like to eat the inside first.
Yeah. So he's just using fear mongering, and he knows the 2 things that scare the Christians most: atheists and Muslims. So lump them together, and you have a double threat.
Oh, and he's buzzwording is what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's basically throwing out inflammatory words to get people into a riled up state so that they do what he wants.
Right.
Elect him in 2012.
I don't know how. I didn't know how they weren't ruled by gay Muslim atheists. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That really was an easy shot that he completely missed. That was a shame.
Yeah, that's actually kind of sad. You're right. He should have gone for the holy trifecta.
Right. Who took everyone else's guns?
Welcoming immersions.
That's right. All right. Did everybody watch the Bigfoot video?
I did not watch the video.
You didn't watch the video?
All 12 seconds of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
of a guy in a suit walking across the road? Sure.
Exactly.
Oh, compelling.
Yeah, it's totally a guy in a suit. And the other thing that on Monster Talk I can't remember his name now. Anyway, he said that the other thing is that it's uniformly blurry. Not blurry in spots, not out of focus here and there. It's completely blurry. And he says the only way to really accomplish that is to take the video and process it, and add that blur to it. So, I mean, clearly the thing has been doctored.
And the comments, people pointed out, wow, can you imagine, having a full 3.5 seconds before the creature got to the road to get your video camera out, to stop the car, to get out of it, have the camera on, have it focused on it, close enough so that you could hear it, blurry enough that you can't see it. Just amazing the amount of coincidence that went into the thing.
Well, what cameras nowadays are that bad? Even the cheapest
None of them.
cheap cameras anymore.
You're not
iPhone's better than that.
Or better. Yeah.
You're not going to find a single camera without autofocus.
Even a Fender computer camera off of, or a dashboard camera off of a state patrol car would get better resolution than that.
Yeah. Right.
But again, in the comments of that article, the believers were all over the place, and they were, tell the man, the skeptics are going to try to keep you down, but you tell those Muslim atheists, guys, we know Bigfoot is here, and it's
in North
big
Carolina.
Conspiracy.
Wait. The Muslim atheists know that the gay Bigfoot is here.
I guess the real question here is Bigfoot conservative or is he a liberal? Actually, I'm looking at that beard. I'm thinking he's a liberal.
Maybe. He's something to be feared, so he must be a liberal.
Like Superman, he can be neither.
Oh, okay, all right. And then the other last thing that I had here was a link to the GIMP crack, and this is a local guy, and I found out about this. I met him at when we went to see Braco. He was there and he told me about his comic, and I couldn't read it I tried to look it on my phone. I got home and I read it. I thought it was cute. Basically, the Chupacabra is being kicked out of the Monster League because he always ends up being a dog with mange. So I thought it was funny. So I put that in here. Yeah. So hopefully he'll have more. I think that he's working on a Braco one. That's what he told me. He says that he wanted to do one for Braco. So I can't wait to see what he comes up with.
I've got my Braco cover already for this podcast.
Oh, you do?
I've got it in my mind.
Excellent.
It's gonna look magnificent.
Great.
Excellent.
Is there anything else?
Skeptics.
This has been a blast. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime.
Hey, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, please come back anytime. Eric, thanks for coming. I'm sorry I started without you.
It's okay. Actually started on time for once.
Yes, we did. Well,
actually, we started a little earlier. We tried to.
We tried. I had technical difficulties. All right. Well, that's not it. If there's not anything else, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Amateur Skeptics podcast. For more information about the Amateur Skeptics, go to amateurskeptics.com. To send us feedback, suggestions, or big flaming insults, feel free to contact us at WTF@amateurskeptics.com. Other contact information can be found on our website.
You can leave a voicemail for the Amateur Skeptics podcast at 720-295-7785. Music for this podcast was provided by OFM. To find out more about OFM, go to myspace.com/OFMHQ. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons, No Derivatives 3.5 license. Thank you for listening to the Amateur Skeptics podcast.
Amateur Skeptics website, Facebook, and podcast album art is provided by and copyright Shadow Knight Digital Portraiture. Larger prints or custom pieces are available upon request.